She goes by the name of Michelle, and she is a traveling artist, wandering Jew in her life from England. So we've lived in the same house at different times, and she's a special woman, and I'm happy that she's part of this evening. Please give a warm welcome to Michelle.
Terrifying. Just catch my breath. That's a good idea. Okay. So, I wasn't supposed to start with so. In the year 2000, I was living in Tel Aviv. I'd been here for 5 years, having a good time as you do in Tel Aviv. And after watching one too many episodes of Beverly Hills 90210, I decided that I'd move to California. So it just so happens I was a designer, and my cousin happened to have a home furnishing store in LA and offered me a job. So who's going to say no to that? So within a few weeks, I found myself on a Virgin Atlantic flight watching the O.J. Simpson car chase flying to LA. I arrived in LA, and a couple of days later, I started working for my cousin's store. Now this store was basically on an avenue called La Brea Avenue. If anybody's been to LA, it's like a beautiful, huge boulevard, and his store took up half the block. It was filled with beautiful fabrics and furnishings, and we basically served all the A-list celebrities and designers. And as a designer at the time, you would actually think this was my dream job. But unfortunately, my cousin and my boss was not quite my dream boss. And after a short amount of time, I realized this actually wasn't my dream job either. So I spent the next 5 years there, and mostly suffering and hiding behind silk drapes, having a little cry when I could. And really just kind of desperately wanting to know what I'm doing here. Like, why am I in LA? Why am I here serving celebrities fabric and making their houses look nice, which was fun, but it certainly wasn't fulfilling, and I was getting more and more frustrated and feeling trapped in this situation. So at the same time, I was on this spiritual path, and I always kind of knew that there was something more to my life than this design and whatever else I was doing. So I was continuing to my spiritual path and basically sponging anything that I could, learning meditation, learning Kabbalah, basically studying anything I could get my hands on. Anyway, after 5 years, I finally had enough, and after an offer for a job to design some drapes for Antonio Banderas, I decided to quit my job with $50 in my bank account and start my own business. So I did, and continued to have my business for the next 10 years. And in the meantime, on the side, I did my spiritual practice, and I was studying and learning, and started to teach and started to get into meditation. So I had these two lives, basically. I had my design life and still continued to work with these celebrities and do that kind of stuff, but it was just very unfulfilling, and I was just frustrated and praying constantly for what's next and what do I need to do. I ended up leaving LA because that was just getting too boring, and I moved to New York and continued the work and carried on studying and doing my design work. And then finally, in 2015, I decided that, you know what, I'm going to go back to LA. I felt like suddenly that was my calling, that I should go there, and I do know not why now. So I basically packed up again in New York and flew back to LA, and ended up moving about 10 minutes from where I lived when I first moved there. So I found myself back in LA again, and again I was trying to get my design business going, but really also just kind of continuing my spiritual practice and helping people. which I really realized this is what I really wanted to do at the end of the day. It was like I wanted to help people, I wanted to share what I knew, I wanted to share my knowledge. So one afternoon I got a call from a friend, and she said, hey Michelle, this woman is opening a meditation center, and maybe you want to give them a call, so if they want people to do workshops. And I was like, great, so I'm going to give them a call. And I actually emailed her. I didn't hear back from her too much. It was just like an ongoing non-communication. So, and then I realized that actually this meditation center was opening, and I thought, you know what, why don't I just go down there and I will go and see her face to face and introduce myself and see what's going on. So I got in my car and I opened my phone to check the address, and I looked down at the address and it was 360 South La Brea, exactly the same place as my cousin's store was where I'd worked 16 years earlier. I was like, and by the way, my cousin had gone bankrupt and lost his store, and his wife had taken over. But until a few months earlier, that was still there, or part of the store was still there. So I was like, in no way, if this is not a sign, I don't know what is. It was about 10 minutes from where I was living, so I drove down there, pulled up outside and saw the Den Meditation. The silk trading company, as it was called, was completely transformed into this beautiful meditation center. I walked in the door, and it was, if I was going to design a meditation center, this is what it would look like. Beautiful rugs and huge gold lamps and beautiful furnishings and exposed brick. It was a dream. And I went up to the desk and I introduced myself to the woman. She had no idea who I was. She couldn't remember. She was just her first night there, and they were just opening. So I was like, never mind. I'm just going to go into the class. I'm going to go check it out and talk to her afterwards. So I go in and find myself a nice little comfy back jack, and again this room was just stunning, and I sat down. The teacher came in and started teaching the class, and the minute she opened her mouth I just started crying. These tears just came down my face, and I'm not a big crier, and definitely not in public, and I wasn't blubbing, by the way. It was a meditation class, but it was just silently pouring down my face, these tears, and I just...
Person has a question.
It's just saying I've got 1 minute left. So tears were pouring down my face, and I suddenly realized I want to teach here. This is what I want to do. I'm going to teach here. And in that moment, it came to me, and I finished the class, got myself together, went out to the front desk and said, hey, I'm Michelle. And she said, oh, you're the hypnotherapist? I'm like, no. She said, well, what do you want to do? You want to teach? You want to work? I said, yeah. I actually had no idea that I wanted to teach. I said, yeah, I want to teach. And within 2 weeks, I'd subbed a couple of classes. Within a month, I had 4 classes of my own. And I was finally doing what I loved in the same place that I started in LA, 16 years earlier, literally the same building. I had the keys to the store again, but this time it was to the Den Meditation Center. And I've never felt happier in my life.